All right, our guest today is an educator, an edtech leader, and a global development specialist focused on transforming how learning happens around the world. Originally from Kenya and now based in Philadelphia, he spent more than a decade working across the United States, Africa, and Latin America designing data driven curriculum, digital learning systems, and scalable education programs. He currently serves as CEO of TFA, or Tutor for Africa Learning, and leads learning partnerships for Tutor for Globe, their global arm, and helping organizations deliver innovative technology enabled education solutions like Make It Secure Academy. In addition to his work in EdTech, he's an adjunct professor at the Community College of Philadelphia and has previously led major learning and development initiatives at companies like Comcast, Apex Learning, many more. His mission is simple but powerful, one that I agree with completely: to build inclusive, scalable, and digital driven education systems that expand opportunities around the world. Silas, in addition to being a tremendous educator, an AI thought leader, and a global development specialist, you are a dear friend of mine, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you continue to transform education across all these continents. You're kind of at the intersection of all the things that this show is about: education, artificial intelligence, and maybe a new topic that we haven't talked about yet, which is the international development, the growing and improving our communities at a very fundamental level. And so, that's what I want to learn from you today, is just kind of a little bit about your perspectives, kind of what makes you tick. I'd like to learn about how you believe that technology can expand opportunity. Here, you and I are here in the U.S., but I've traveled to Kenya with you, to
Yep.
Laikipia with you, and I've seen firsthand how technology can truly impact different regions of the world. So thank you for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. Did I leave anything out for your
No, no, no,
introduction?
Sam, that was really a glorifying introduction. I didn't expect
Excellent.
to add
Excellent.
anything.
Excellent. Well, tell us a little bit about your background growing up in Kenya. What inspired your passion for education? Because I happen to know your sister. I happen
Yeah.
to know, where some of your siblings work. So tell me about where that came from.
So, Sam, yeah, I grew up in Kenya in a community where education was not just encouraged. It was seen as a pathway or an opportunity for transformation. And just to give you a perspective, many of us had to get that long commute to school. We shared textbooks and studied under limited resources. But one thing that lacked some was the infrastructure, which made for up in determination. So we were determined to go there. We were determined to stay focused. So what I saw early on education was that it could completely change the trajectory of someone's life. Teachers in my community were highly respected. I've been an educator here, and I know it can be a misconception on how teachers are respected. So teachers were really respected, and that experience, yeah, just stayed with me and planted a seed for what would become my career's life. Mhm.
I can't agree with you more. I think my experience abroad has been similar perspectives when I lived in Asia, for example. Just the way that we treated teachers in different countries is so
Yeah,
different from the United States. So huge shout out to all the teachers out there, all the educators here in the U.S. We love you, and you don't get nearly enough love from the world, right? So
exactly.
um, I, I think what really interests me whenever I was traveling with you, what really
Mhm.
interested me, and by the way, the infrastructure, huge shout out to some of the people who have given back. You and
Yes.
I have
Hmm.
kind of coordinated some things, I know, for some of those
Exactly.
folks in your community back in Kenya. So huge shout out anyone who's out there who wants to maybe think about how to get older and outdated equipment into the hands of folks who can put it to use. Please reach out to Silas here in the show notes, or make some comments and let us know if you've got some equipment you can do something with. We'd love to help coordinate that as well. But anyway, back to our conversation. I think the thing that I love to talk about when folks ask me about my experience in Asia is just like, what are the different misconceptions that we have based on U.S. education models and foreign education models. Could you tell me a little bit about the African education system? What do we see back home in Kenya? What's different about that?
Well, I just want to go back a little bit and just talk about what brought me to to Kenya, from Kenya to the United States, and how that shaped my perspective in education. So coming to the United States opened my eyes completely. because here, as an educator, I was able to experience classrooms that were advanced with resources, where digital tools and access to all the information was simply available to everybody, unlike back home. So the contrast made me ask an important question: what could be the bridge that gap of using technology? And if you compare the systems in Africa or any global, so we have just this one thing that is really compelling. We have the digital inequity. Not everybody has access to that technology. Not everybody has access to that information. As you mentioned before, when we visited our village school, the village school pretty much had a ratio of 1 to 70, and you can imagine everybody's cluttered in one room, and there's no projector, there's nothing else. So the teacher is the one who has all the information, because we have limited resources too in terms of the books. So that's how it looks like in most areas. Though we are seeing this starting to change with the cities urbanizing and some few transformation, but still the rural areas are left behind. So that's the difference we see compared to what we see right now in the US or the most developed countries. Yeah.
Now, I mean, what I guess I like to talk about that digital divide, and we've talked about this on numerous occasions. And like, if we roll back the clock for a lot of folks who are watching the show, you probably know the digital divide. We were talking about basically the internet connections, and I have a background, and we have a shared organizational experience, you and I, with respect to nonprofit work in rural Alaska. And often the conversation about digital divide was just getting connectivity. Now we've kind of advanced from that point. Now we've got connectivity, we got broadband in rural areas, et cetera. Now I feel like there's this digital divide in terms of access to artificial intelligence. What do you think about that? What do you think about, is that the new digital divide? Like, who's got access to AI and who doesn't?
That's shaping up too, because we're seeing the AI is still in the infancy, so we're not seeing that huge. But I want to point out, even though Africa has a better penetration of mobile devices, still our students are lacking digital literacy, which is a big issue before we advance to even AI literacy. So now we're seeing that now we're coming with another compounded problem, because you're trying to address AI literacy and you've not addressed the digital literacy among the students. So, but yes, that will be another huge gap in foreseeable future, because you're seeing that AI literacy is just jumping ahead of the digital literacy, which you're trying to solve now in Africa and other underdeveloped countries.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about that, the penetration, and that's actually something I was very surprised about when I was there with you, was that we had great cellular coverage. I think it's Safari. Is that right? Safari?
Yes, Safari, yeah,
Yeah. So we
Safaricom.
had, yeah. So we had great connectivity everywhere we went. I mean, I remember we were driving through herds of zebra, and I was like,
Yes,
well, I'm still connected. I've still got a connection, right?
right,
Uh,
right.
that was cool. Tell us, is there anything that our viewers might want to hear about? Like, what innovation is happening? Like, what, in terms of not necessarily parity to the U.S. in terms of the average school in the U.S. with 1-to-1 or whatever. Are there pockets of innovation, and what is Africa doing really well right now that you think should be shared?
Oh, you mentioned about internet connectivity, which is a big issue. So we're seeing that being very useful, especially covering some of the rural areas. And we're seeing some big players like Starlink are now available in those remote areas. So that's really helping connectivity in those remote areas. So that's really good. And then one key thing we're seeing electricity too. Electricity now is accessible to a huge percentage of those rural areas, which has really helped a lot. So those are some of the things that we're seeing, that having those is our initial step. But now it comes back to now the digital inequity that I talked about, where we don't have now the equipment here, access to the laptops. We talk about access to technical tools that the teachers can use to drive instruction. So those are the things that we're now seeing in most of the schools. Yeah.
You know what you reminded me of is, when I remember when I was there and I was meeting with the young people, and we were doing a cybersecurity course in
Right.
Laikipia. What struck me as just inspirational, incredible, was that the young people who were in that classroom, they were getting these Raspberry Pis, as I recall, and we were kind of
Hmm.
building them together, and then they were connecting them to the internet at the school, and then for the first time, kind of doing things right. So it was phenomenal what I saw, because when I came into the classroom, they didn't have Raspberry Pis, they didn't have computers, They didn't have monitors. They had one projector we were sharing, but all the
Mhm.
kids had their cell phone, and some of them had even like done enough research to kind of like turn their phone into a Kali Linux machine that they
Yes.
could kind of emulate and use that way. So I was just really impressed by the versatility and the I think about that book Grit from many years ago. There's
Right.
a great book called Grit talking about determination and how that kind of shapes our
Hmm.
mentality and our perspective on the world and our approach to education.
Right.
What are your thoughts about that determination? Because you know, I feel like we've been handed everything here in the
Hmm.
U.S. education system, and I come from a place in Alaska, school districts in Alaska, where we had one-to-one devices, but we weren't even using them very well. We had kids when we first got them in 2006. They were playing chess. They weren't even using them for schoolwork, and then after a couple of years, I feel like we weren't really having all this impact that we expected. They were just kind of gaming or whatever. So, what is your thought about that balance of determination and wanting for more and working hard for it? I don't know. I don't know how to describe that.
Yeah, and growing up, that's exactly what we were taught. We determined because good enough. Where I grew up, I had an exposure of how the world would look like. My brother came to the United States before me, so he was able to tell me, "Hey, Silas, so this is a new world that you should be able to try and envision." And then with the media and the TV opening up, and we know the global market is just reaching up everybody. So we're seeing that African can advance by looking at the other developed worlds. And that's how students are determined. They're really focused and determined to do better. And we're also seeing that for us now coming into Africa and trying to change the innovation, we're trying to figure out how can we help those students. For us, for TFA, Tutor of Africa, what we've done is that we've been develop an app which is offline, so providing students who are rural, so they can have the offline content and then update when they're back on the internet. So that really provides opportunity for them to even use their mobile access to just to get everything they want to get. But I can tell you, we have a huge young population right now in Africa, which is really understanding exactly what the power of technology. And it's exciting that everybody's sharing and everybody is really anxious and really excited about jumping into this opportunity. Me as a tutor for Africa, I've never lacked any skilled worker. They're always skilled. So that's the opportunity we have and the success that we're seeing as we grow.
I see a tremendous opportunity as well.
Mhm.
Just after my first visit, I was thinking to myself, English speaking, highly professional, highly educated, incredibly hardworking. Again, that grit, determination kind of just comes through in everything that I saw and all the interactions that I had with people. Uh, I agree. What do you think about this? Could you just compare for me because you have a view that spans continents and you can see kids when you're in Nairobi on your way back home and you can see kids in Philadelphia at the airport when you're on your way back home. Tell me what are you seeing? What are some commonalities? Because you mentioned AI, you mentioned handsets, right? Cell phones, you mentioned
Mhm.
connectivity. Seems to me like that's maybe not a complete parody, but it seems to me like that's something that actually is pretty synonymous in either one of those locations. What's the impact of that on education, you think?
Well, looking at AI, first of all, AI and the future of learning, how do I see AI shaping or changing the education globally? Because AI has a potential to transform education by making it more personalized. So we know that we talked about this one size fits all model. So AI now can analyze how student learns, where they struggle, and what pace works best for them. So by allowing this kind of opportunity for these students, and what I see even now here in the US, taught, so I see there's still the same issue where we need to personalize that learning. We need to address very specific issues. And that's why I'm excited about Kenya because we have the competency based education that is coming out. So, what's going to happen now globally, we'll start looking at the skills, those competent skills that we need. And that will drive the future opportunity for the student in Nairobi or the student in Philadelphia or in Kenya. So, I see AI becoming a primary opportunity for all these students. Mhm.
Do you want to just maybe unpack that a little bit? I don't know if everybody watching is kind of familiar with that concept of competency-based learning, So I think I've been on the peripheral of what you've been working on for, I guess it's been maybe 4 or 5 years now, I think. But tell us a little bit more about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, so competence-based education means that uh, a student has their own pathway, and within the requirement of any, I'll say any course or any learning area, they're supposed to attain some competencies or some skills in that particular area. So we are tying the assessment to those skills, and the students has to go through that competency-based model so that they can demonstrate that I've achieved these skills. So they can give them a path, they can navigate themselves, they can go by themselves and then just go through that content, demonstrating those skills. And if they've not demonstrated those skills, then the teacher comes in and then tries and unpacks where they're lacking those skills. So we're just not teaching one thing for the whole entire class. We're making sure that each student has their own assigned skills that they need to show competencies as they progress towards higher level of their learning skill. So it's kind of like I usually say, like think about a chef. If you're a chef and you're trying to cook, you need to start being like a sous chef. So you need to start understanding how to cut the vegetables, trim them nicely. So once you go past that level, you've attained that skills, then you're going to the level where you can now start mixing the ingredients. And maybe before mixing the ingredients, then before you jump into the fire and start cooking, then that's another skill. So that's exactly what competency based is. So we address the skills as we go by, you master the skills and you move forward.
We're okay, so I like the analogy. Now I'm just thinking out loud, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
it's a tremendous analogy. There are dangers, right? There are
Yes.
like so you need to understand that you don't put metal in the microwave. You need to
Right.
understand that you don't, you have to understand what happens when you put water in a hot pan of oil, right? So
Right.
taking that same analogy, where do you feel like AI fits in this competency-based model, and what do you see as the dangers or potential risks? Because it sounds to me like we could maybe you've probably seen the memes where there's a kid who's trying to reach up the steps with flip-flops on, and you can put
Right.
any words you want, right? Where do you see AI fitting in that competency-based model then, if there's a potential for kind of trying to overstep or overreach?
So here is where we need architectures of education platform to come in. And I'm glad that I'm working with a few folks to build those AI-driven platforms. So AI-driven platforms can identify where the student is struggling and immediately provide additional explanation, exercise, or examples. So this means that particular student is not left behind simply because the classroom moved so fast or they moved too quickly. So I was talking to you about the college class I'm teaching. So of course, if I'm teaching, I can see that I'm moving really fast for some of the students because I can look at their eyes and then say that this really student is really struggling, moved fast. So if they were in an AI-driven platform, that would not be the case. Yeah, and that's one thing. So AI, what I also think AI is just like a supplemental, like an assistant. Having a teacher assistant in the classroom is a golden, a teacher assistant who can give you right immediate feedback right there. So I'm seeing that's an opportunity where AI can start, can maybe assist with the grading. It can generate those assessments. It can track those student progress and provide that targeted recommendations right there. So what it does, it allows teachers to focus on mentoring, coaching, and then facilitating that deeper learning for that particular student.
It sounds like you're a bit of an expert, and I know you are. I happen to know that. What you've helped me tremendously with my programming, with my curriculum, and with the platform that we have up and running today.
Right.
Um, I guess, just maybe take a minute, not a sales pitch per se, but just maybe take a minute and talk about what you do with TFA and Tutor for Globe. Maybe just take a minute to talk about that, and I think that'll help people understand where your expertise is coming from. Like, who are you supporting? Or is this a government thing? Is it a local schools thing? Is it, what is it that TFA does?
So, and I love the introduction when you mentioned that we have the global part and we have the African part. So we realize
Yeah.
that Tutor for Africa just focuses solely in Africa education, and why we made that deliberate decision to do African content is because we wanted to make the content more relevant and geared towards the population right there. I usually say uh, AI or any tool should not be the first thing. We want to make sure they have relevant content and then build those relationship and then use AI tool or any technology tool to meet those three components. So relevancy, and then you want to build those connection relationship, and then use the technology to to connect all those three. So that's why we made a deliberate effort to build a curriculum that is geared for Africans. So we have a platform, a learning management platform. We have content that we provide, and we are talking with schools that, hey, what innovations do you need for us to support you students? And that's where we come in to solve those problems that there in Africa for K through 16, be it data, be it content, be it integrating technology in some other components. Then we are there for you for TFA. When it comes to Tutor for Global, which is a global perspective, and you happen to be one of our standing clients, then we talk to you and ask for the solutions where we need. And we are specifically looking at AI now and maybe cybersecurity on your part. Like, how can we educate our learners on AI and cybersecurity? And you, as an expert of cybersecurity, you know that there's so many issues, security issues now, with AI even coming on board that we're going to have. And there's so many ethical considerations too that we have to consider. So all those things are there, and we need experts to come in, experts like us and you, to flesh this out and make sure that everybody's educated about the security and AI integration in education. Well, that's what we offer to a
Yeah,
global company.
it's if somebody needs help with that here in the U.S., you can obviously support that, whether it's platform building, platform management, custom creation, or just curriculum all across the board. Then
Correct. Yeah.
yeah. So we've kind of talked about ethics and how do we get AI out there ethically, responsibly, safely, in a private way, et cetera. We talked about equity quite a bit. I was wondering if you could kind of I know they don't necessarily fit together. They don't necessarily belong in the same conversation often, but tell me where you feel like ethics and equity do converge, and where is that a good thing, and where is that a negative? Do you have any perspectives on that, whether it's Africa or the U.S. or globally, just in general?
Sam, that's a good question. So when it comes to ethic, we must consider data privacy, transparency, and fairness.
Mm,
So we're saying is that any education AI system should be designed to support learners without introducing bias or misusing students' data. And that's what we want. And then ethics should always guide how technologies are implemented. And I think one thing I'm excited about AI is that, or Pro, is that AI will be a game changer. We're seeing a game changer, especially with the AI platform and driving the learning in terms of making the learning more personalized. But what we are concerned is that are there guardrails to protect our students? Are there guardrails to ensure that the data, the transparency, and it's fair too? And then the AI models that we're using, are they able to encompass everybody in the globe? Or are we just using models that are looking at a different side of the globe? So those are the things that we are trying to factor out, and those are the ethical issues that we're seeing. So yeah, the pro is going to be successful. AI is going to be a game changer for personal learning. What the cons is just what are we using? Are we ethical in where we design our models and everything else?
yeah, yeah. I fear, kind of that skipping steps meme that we were talking about. I kind of fear, uh, I fear a world where, we were joking about calculators and risk calculators, but I fear a world where young people do kind of skip to the end. And I've listened to a lot of conversations, interviews, podcasts, read and listened to audiobooks, and some of the things that I recall, and I can't quote for you where this information came from, so forgive me for saying things that are not backed up with a link, but many of the research and statistics that I've seen say that young people going into college now are like, they assume that they have to use these tools to keep up with everybody else, and that they're writing research paper, they're doing term papers, they're turning in work that is, it's AI created. Uh, and so I fear that we're going to like skip some steps in there. And I really wish that we could just kind of find a way to bring AI online and on board in education in a way that truly is scaffolded. And I see Gemini and ChatGPT, they've got the learning modes, and we can kind of switch those models, especially in the models like the enterprise versions for schools. We can do that. So I've seen that. I guess tell me about a skill that you feel like every kid should have by the time they graduate high school.
Well, it's essential. Number one skill right now is AI literacy. But before even AI literacy, I think digital literacy should be the number one skill that they should be working on first. And I think we're skipping now. We're jumping to AI literacy before we even factor the digital literacy. So I think those two are the essential skills because in the future skills, in the future jobs we're seeing, or in the future career opportunities, all these career opportunities will have a component of AI integrated, and they'll still require the digital literacy in all those careers. And that's what we're telling that students, you need to learn this, but not just learning how to use it, learning the proper way of using AI, and that's critical for us. Yeah, because there's a way good use of AI and there's a bad use of AI, and that's the bad use of AI is what we're seeing evolving in everywhere, and we need to turn that around and embrace AI, and then start reskilling people on how to use AI properly.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I guess if you don't mind kind of closing us up, just kind of wrap this conversation up. I always like to end on a high note. What gives you hope? You know, when you reflect on what you're seeing in education around the globe, you're seeing in your classrooms, you're seeing with your customers, what gives you hope?
The hope is that we'll reach that equity and access at one point, and that gives me hope that a student in the village will be able to compete the student in Philadelphia or student in the global market. And the way we are really producing the content, the way we are really building those platforms has just changed, and we're able to use speed to deliver AI and speed to deliver these platforms. So I'm excited about access and equity, bridging that gap. We're not going to solve the whole problem, but we'll be close enough.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for helping me close those gaps. Thank you for helping many educational organizations over the years to close those gaps. I love what you do. If anyone's interested in reaching out to Dr. Wandera, you want to get his information, we'll try to include that in the notes here. Please do comment or reach out. We'll make sure that we include your contact information, Silas, if they want to ask you questions or maybe follow up or look at some opportunities to work with you. Thank you for everything. Really appreciate your time today. Have a great day. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you, Sam, for the opportunity. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for watching. As you know, our mission at Make It Secure is to empower confident, secure, and ethical use of technology. If you want to see more secure conversations like the one you just watched, be sure to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to see the next conversation.